Well, hello, I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. And tonight, a story that should have everyone very nervous in Oregon. The Medical Association is looking at a new law. And I'm going to bring, do you guys remember when we used to talk to Tim and May, our doctors with BS Free MD? Well, they're in Florida now, still doing their show, as many of you probably know because you watch. But I talked to Tim, and we're gonna come on here and just discuss what this could mean. Bill London, this came out last week. Bill London had it on his Crazy Oregon news segment that we do here at Get Real with Rick Dancer. He had that story on there, but I want to talk a little bit more to two doctors, and we're going to talk to Tim. So it's one doctor. The cute one's not here today, Tim. But we're going to talk to Tim about what this could mean and just kind of open it up because they're talking about microaggressions, which every time I hear a word like that, I just want to go, blah, 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 blah. It's like a little woke term, but we're going to unpack this a little bit so you know a little bit more about what it means. Why do we do this? Because we have sponsors like Chris Dental Family Dentistry, where your civil liberties and your freedom still matter. And we also have New America Funding with Greg Hinkle here in Montana. If you're looking for somebody to help you get your loan together, he works out of Washington, Oregon, and also Montana. And State of Montana Oral Surgeons and Dental Implant Center. If you're looking to get any kind of dental work done that requires you to be put out, this is the place to go. And in Creswell, Oregon, rain, clean air conditioning. Boy, I bet you're glad you're on their sign-up program now. If you didn't get on that, you're in big trouble because it's been really hot in Oregon and here in Montana. New Leaf Hyperbarics and Wellness Center. Matt has just expanded. They have what? Massage. They have hyperbarics. They now have saunas. They have light therapy. And all kinds of stuff. So you need to check them out. And if you tell them it's your first time and you saw it on Rick Dancer, he'll give you a break. And Albert Taylor, Endless Possibilities. We're working with people with different abilities is their job. They make people's lives amazing. And we really like having them on board. Okay, let's get to Tim. BS Free MD. Tim, how you doing, buddy? The doctor is in the house.
Yes, indeed. So, but I do not practice medicine on shows. So that's
No, he is not a doctor on the show. He just has that title.
Correct.
So you sent me this article, and we had it on we do a little segment called Crazy Oregon News because it's always full with Bill London, and he had this on there too. Talk to me about so people can understand. This is a Oregon doctors could soon lose their license for microaggressions. And this is a proposed medical board rule. Talk to me.
Okay, so I think what you have to do is, first of all, define what a microaggression is. So
I looked it up.
Yes, but they give examples in this article, and they're amazing. So Derald Wing Su, who was the Columbia professor that the Oregon board used as this microaggression expert, which we are either living in a simulation or we are spiraling on the road to hell when there are actual people that have a job as a microaggression expert.
And get paid by tax dollars to go talk to people about it, I'm sure.
Right. So yeah, basically you're training people on how to be offended by nothing, which is great. Like that sounds like a really good thing to do. But anyways, so saying such things as America is the land of opportunity, I believe the most qualified person should get the job. America is a melting pot. Those are examples of harmful microaggressions, according to Professor Derald Wing Su.
So Tim, if you look it up, it says, the dictionary says, a statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as racial or ethnic minority. That is a can of worms to open up because what's your microaggression is my normal speech pattern and what used to be a normal thing to think. Well, so they could get you for anything.
No, that's exactly right. Like that's the absolute bottom line of this. This is the thought police law. so that anyone can be offended. And if you're offended at all by anything that a physician says, you cannot just, this isn't that you can sue them. This is way worse. You're going after their license. And the thing is, like, it's easy to laugh at Oregon, like it really is. Like, it's a target-rich environment for retarded woke stuff, right? But in reality, that affects your ability to practice medicine anywhere. Because if you get a board action against you in the state, you have to answer that in the end. If you move to Idaho, or like I moved to Florida, you will be put before them and have to explain, what happened. I said, I was talking to a patient, and I said, isn't it great how the homosexual community has been accepted, but they don't need a month, maybe a day is good enough. Okay, you say that, they report you, and then you go to another state and you have to go through the whole thing again.
Right. I've had conversations with friends of mine in minority communities where then sometimes it's been offensive to them, and they've explained that to me, or I've said something not knowing that was offensive. And then they've told me, and that's how I learn about this stuff. If you're a doctor and all of a sudden you say something to a patient that you really don't have a relationship with, and this is somebody who's just, there are people out there who just want to be angry and who want to be offended. And so they go, and come storming out. What the thing I don't understand, Tim, that's so weird to me is Oregon is having trouble getting medical people anyway, nurses and doctors. And they're always talking about being understaffed. And right now, isn't it? I've heard from doctor friends of mine, they've contemplated getting out of the industry because of just regular insurance concerns and the cost of insurance. Can you imagine if they implement this, what insurance costs are going to go up? Because anybody could get you.
Right, but your malpractice insurance has nothing to do with this. There's no malpractice for a board action. This isn't getting sued. This is getting hauled before.
This is actually just losing your license, but you're no longer a doctor then.
Well, you're a doctor. They can't take your degree away, but you can't earn any money doing it because you don't have a license to do it. I mean,
why would they do? I read the article and I just don't understand.
I think once you drink the woke Kool-Aid, it's like it becomes like a woke off, where you have more bona fides in whatever world these people live in if you go even further down the rabbit hole, and then what happens is normal people leave, they get out of the state, or they get out of leadership in the state, and then the vacuum is filled by nuttier people like. So you get a chilling effect of people that should speak up don't, and then they leave. And then the people that do speak up are really nutty, and no one will confront them because then you're, microaggressing and whatever. And so then what it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It magnifies on its own self, and it becomes completely crazy. And that's why people have to not be scared of any name you get called. Call me whatever name you want. It doesn't matter. I'm going to speak what I believe the truth is.
See, and do you feel like, okay, so Tim, for those of you who don't know, Tim and May were in Oregon, Sweet Home Lebanon area. And then they went to, because of all this, not this topic tonight, because this is new, but moved to Florida. So in Florida, do you feel like, I feel like what I see in Oregon and what I see in Montana, where I now live, is people are tired and they're kind of pushing back finally. Do you see that in Florida?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the fact is Florida has been ahead of the curve on this stuff for so long that people don't really have to feel like they're pushing back so much because there's nothing to push back against. It's probably, DeSantis. Obviously I don't agree with everything that he's done, but he's probably been the most violently anti-woke of any government and any
aggressively, yeah.
Aggressively anti-woke. And so like the protests that were happening in Texas, and our daughter just graduated from the University of Texas and from other universities, like that stuff lasted about 25 minutes in Florida. I mean, it's like, go in there, shut down the protest. You don't get to occupy the university unless you're a student going to class. I mean, that stuff just didn't fly here, and people know it. So they, there's an actual adult at the helm.
If you were still a doctor in Oregon, which you still could be, I guess, but if you were still here and you were seeing this, what would your biggest concerns be?
That I'll lose my honestly, like with my big mouth and with my podcast and with the people that I've interviewed and with the crazy crap I've said on shows like Docktails with Cocktails, or one of our other shows where we get a little tipsy and mock all this stuff. I mean, are you kidding? I would have working for the last 2 corporate medicine jobs I had. There's no way in hell I would take those jobs, because eventually they'd see what I say online, and that would be the end of me.
And look at what they've done to other friends of yours too, who are doctors in your same community, for just standing for what they believe about certain issues and ideas. And you could look at abortion or something. If there was a doctor who said they were anti-abortion or something like that, that could be skewed as microaggression, I guess. I mean, what can't be a microaggression? That's what I think is the weirdest thing. This is like any human idea that doesn't line up with cultural crap.
Yeah, no, I mean, the verse in the Bible, iron sharpens iron, right? So you're supposed to disagree. You're supposed to be nice about it, but you're supposed to disagree, because disagreements are how we're sharpened, how our intellects grow, how our perspectives grow, how we become more compassionate to people that believe differently than us, is to listen to them.
Right.
And that means we will disagree. Okay, that just gets shut down. This isn't ironing, sharpening iron. This is cotton candy beating cotton candy. It's nonsense. It's the most it's mental floss. It's just garbage. And language matters, and being able to speak out matters. And you don't have to be obnoxious, but I mean, we have to. You can be nice. I mean, May had an amazing experience. I'll give you an example of this. An amazing experience. No one is from where we live. They're from everywhere. And a lot of them are from the East Coast, the Northeast. So they've been big D Democrats for 19 gazillion years, right? And she gets in a conversation and she makes it known that she, doesn't agree with this person politically. And the woman was completely stunned, because A, she didn't have horns growing out of her head, and B, she was really cordial, and C, she listened to her opinions and then asked her, I think we agree on more things than we don't, but I think we disagree on how to get there. And this woman was almost in tears, because she assumed anyone that would say anything nice about Trump was an a-hole that needed to be, expunged from the earth.
Right.
So we have to learn to listen to each other again. And this is not how you're going to learn to listen to each other again.
Well, I'm concerned as a former journalist, as we have a debate coming up, and we've got 2 what is their job? Moderators. I have to laugh when I hear that. And I was listening on the radio this morning, and the campaign manager for Trump was on CNN and started saying, well, it's not going to be fair, because both of your moderators have come out against him and called him Hitler. And how is that going to be a fair? And they cut her off. CNN cut her off. Now, first of all, when I was in the business, no one would have ever allowed people who had come out and, first of all, they wouldn't have been able to do that anyway. They would have never been able to say their real opinion and call somebody anything like that. Second of all, if they had, they would have been taken off the air. Third, if they still made it to that point, they'd never be allowed, because of how it looks, to moderate something this important. And we have a culture now that is blind to it. Like, okay, whatever, and it's like, that is not fairness. You can't do that. And I look at this medical thing and I'm going, so what? You get up and the word of the week is, whatever, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you happen to have said this, and it doesn't, how do you prove harm when it was just words that were spoken? That's what drives me crazy about the woke stuff, is because I can say you have curly hair to someone who's got darker skin, and all of a sudden I'm a racist. And it's like, I think this is going to open a huge can of worms. I hope it dies. But do you know anybody like who's connected with them and what they're saying about that?
No, I have one friend and colleague that I've known for decades that I may reach out to, because this is complete insanity. And I know that he had potentially been going to be on the board. I don't know that he is, but the thing that's so interesting to me is this: is we have one side of our mouth saying in our society that we have a mental health crisis. Okay, well, what's one of the hallmarks of mental health? It's resilience.
Right.
It means that you can go through tough times and you don't completely get shattered. You know, you can carry on your affairs. You can think for yourself. You know, something bad happens, you get a little sad, and you just keep going, right? The resilience. But then we're saying that microaggressions are bad, not because they're bad, not because the person being aggressed against is a snowflake. It's that the aggressor is so ignorant he has to be sent to the indoctrination camp to learn about it. When in reality, the real problem is if you have so little resilience in your life that saying America is a land of opportunity offends you, that is your problem. You're mentally ill. We're using mentally ill people. Their standard of behavior is what we're going to judge everyone else on.
Right.
Like if I didn't mean anything bad by it, then educate me and I'll apologize and I'll own my words. Trust me, I got a big mouth. I've had to do it for almost 59 years. I get that. But we're literally codifying mental illness into medical ethics.
Well, and you bring up that resilience thing too. We're encouraging a lack of resilience.
Yes.
We're not teaching our children or our culture to be resilient and to stand up. It's just like the offense thing. It's like, you know, and I'm a big believer in if you're offended, I've never gone out to try to offend somebody. If I have, and they can show me why that's offensive and not just their little tiny feelings getting hurt, then I'm going to apologize. But I also, I'm not going to base my life on not saying something because it might make somebody feel bad. You know, I mean, like, and I don't want it to sound like I don't go out and try to make somebody feel bad, but from doing this as long as I have in this business, there are people who just want to take everything you say personally. And I can't spend my life doing that. And that's what this change in this medical board, I think that's what it's going to do. It's going to open a door where you're going to go into your doctor, and if you bring up anything, you know, like a, you know, somebody's got some sexual issues or things like that, the doctor is going to have to bring somebody else in the room to sit down and listen to how it's going to be like kindergarten, you know, where I need to bring Jeannie in so she can listen to hear, you know, if it's a male or a female, somebody come in and have to listen to what's going on so that you're protected when and if this person takes you to the board.
Well, right. No, but what you've just described is exactly, remember watching The Hunt for Red October.
Exactly.
Who was the most important person other than the captain on the ship? It was the political officer, making sure that no one said anything bad against the Communist Party, making sure that no one defected from the Communist Party. The political officer was the guy that the Sean Connery character had to kill first. They had to kill the political officer first because he was going to, spill the beans. And that's what we're going to get to. We're going to get to and it's just complete and absolute insanity. And that's why we do what we do, which is we scream about insanity, and we every Wednesday night make as much fun of it as we personally possibly can because it is so crazy.
Right. And I think that comedy is a healing way of doing that. You know what I mean? I heard Jerry Seinfeld. Did you hear his response to the, it was priceless. The hecklers. I mean, first of all, how stupid do you have to be to heckle a comedian? I mean, especially like Jerry Seinfeld, you know what I mean? This guy's a professional. I mean, he could find a nose hair and make fun of you and rip you to shreds. And here's these guys in there protesting him for speaking about what he believes, and he just obliterates them.
Oh, it was but the thing that struck me about that, if no one has watched that clip, you absolutely have to do it, is he was unbelievably gracious to them. And that's even
totally
because he could have gone like full Sam Kinison on them and been screaming and yelling and, like that. There's that Sam Kinison bit where he calls up this guy's ex-girlfriend and calls her all the bad names, and he does it on stage, and it's really awful. It's actually hard to watch, right? And then you see Jared, he's like, oh, I missed you guys. Oh, you want my platform. You want to take my platform. Well, you can't. You have to earn that. And by the way, you gave another $200 to come to a show to give it to a Jew. I mean, it was just brilliant.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you make. I really like that. He was super gracious, and I think that's how people can start to fight this stuff, is with kindness, firm kindness. And what I've been telling my audience is a lot is, if you're sitting at a table, because I remember doing this when I was in the news business, is you sit there and somebody say, well, surely you're not going to go, you don't agree with Tim and May. I mean, surely you don't. And then I just would be, well, everybody has their opinions. And rather than saying, no, actually I do. And here's the reasons why.
Yep.
Because and that's what we have to all start doing, whether you're left, right, middle,
yep,
green, I don't care who you are. You don't attack you. And I notice a tactic of the left that really is I'm just bored with it, is the bullying. The comments on my page where people come on and they say, oh, well, it's always about your look, or, so yeah, somebody with hair like that obviously thinks that. Well, oh yeah, they've done research and found that hair like mine makes you this person. I mean, it's just stupid things like that, rather than going in and saying, something like, no, I disagree with you, but let's talk about that. And I think people with their mothers sitting around with their family members, and somebody says, oh, I think, Trump's a wacko or something. Well, I actually like what he did for the economy. I thought that was really good. And have those conversations, because if we don't open our mouths, we the people are gonna suffer greatly. We already are, but I think we're gonna suffer even more greatly. And if you support Biden, fine, tell me why, and have a normal conversation, and don't tell me why because all the things you hate about Trump. Instead,
right.
What do you like about Trump? What do you like about Biden? If there's nothing, that's fine, but don't hit me with something, well, at least Biden didn't do. No, you're getting off topic. And I think we all need to get on topic with all of this, No,
I think that's entirely correct. It is funny, though, that you mentioned hair, because on an episode that just dropped on our audio podcast, I lose my mind over a woman that was talking about getting consent from a baby before you change their diaper. It's an article I found from several years ago. She was a sexual consent expert, and her hair was what I called the pink lesbian hair helmet.
And she has her thought was that you have to get consent. How does a baby? So what's a baby? Like, they don't start talking until they're 2, right?
Right. But the thing is, again, this is what we're fighting against. We're fighting against stuff that needs to be mocked, needs to be understood to a certain degree, but then needs to be dissected in a rational manner. Okay. First of all, her whole point was, well, I want to build a culture of consent in my kids. Okay. Well, that's fine. Okay. I get that. But whether or not the baby consents or not to its diaper being changed, it's going to be changed anyways. So,
right.
So then you get the baby says no. Okay. Let's say your 3-year-old says no, because they say no to everything and they had an accident and they need their diaper changed. Are you going to respect their consent and not change it? No, you're not. Okay. You're going to do it anyways. So then you've just taught them that consent doesn't mean anything.
Right. Because if you don't, then is that a microaggression, and you're allowing them to get dirty diaper rash and have to go to a doctor and get some kind of ointment? And you know what I mean?
It's neglect. It's child abuse.
Right. You leave your kid. So if the baby doesn't consent, and what if the baby's just going, I don't know what's going on. Now, the next thing, Tim, will end up being pets consent. Your dog has to consent to staying home alone, or eating kibbles and bits, or the kind of dog food. Do you think that that's what's happened, is it's gotten so over the top that people are just rolling their eyes and saying, the only place, I hope people understand, the only place you can say no to this, well, in your daily life, you can start saying no. But at the ballot box is where you really say no. and you have to go to the ballot box, or at least when the thing comes in the mail, you have to use it and vote. But I think it's really important that people participate in this upcoming election.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm actually working on a speech I may or may not be giving this weekend. It depends on volume of speakers at this conference I'm going to. But it's, I think that's part of it. But I think you know, I think there's some danger in the political element where we think that their Superman is coming. You know, if our guy gets elected and we get the Senate and the House, yippee ki happy days are here again. The country has been saved. And I say an absolute overwhelming no to that. There's no Superman coming. The Superman that's going to save the country is us.
Right.
We are Superman. We are Wonder Woman. We have to do it. And we do it with kindness, and we do it with reason, and we do it with grace, and we are unrelenting in it. And it's all about the relationships that we have with people, where the conversation gets uncomfortable and we make it comfortable because we use humor and grace, but we still disagree. That's the key. Silence in this situation, to use the woke term, really is violence, because this kind of law against physicians in Oregon, who in their right freaking mind would want to get a license in a state with people that insane?
Who would? But just think of the trouble they're going to have. Hospitals are going to have getting doctors and nurses and people like that, surgeons, to come to Oregon to work with that kind of rule. I mean, you'd be crazy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're voting on it, I think, next month, and we'll see what actually happens. But if this passes, like, and again, it's not just the fact that this thing could happen and somebody could take you to the board for a microaggression. That's part of it. The bigger issue to me is how completely nuts is the Board of Medical Examiners to even entertain this idea and not just offhand go, "That's dumb, next."
That's what concerns me the most.
Yes.
I see school boards, I see city councils, I see all this stuff, these different organizations, and they buy this. I mean, it's like you scratch your head and go, when did this become okay or culturally okay? And, you know, you look at some of the issues, and I'm not going to mention it because we'll get censored on here, but some of the issues that affect, you know, maybe 1% of the population. And it's like the conversation is so big, and I think most of us don't know how to address it because we might be a microaggressor, you know. And if we said what we really thought, that it's crazy and nuts, then they'd try to cancel us. I think for you and me, the idea of canceling, I've been canceled already. So I've been there,
and I have. My thing is this. I think what I'm going to do that's going to be like my cape and my armor is I'm going to start my own minority.
Oh, okay. So what are you going to be?
Because if you're a protected class, then you can't get microaggressed again. I'm going to start something called LIMB.
LIMB. LIMB.
Lesbian in a man's body.
Oh, that's going to get you in some trouble.
I know, but it would sell a lot of T-shirts. It's like, no, you can't microaggress me. I'm a limb. It's now LGBT whatever.
It's really sad because I know you and I both have many, you know, well, all of us have friends in all minority communities. And when I'm talking to my friends, this is not a deal. This is not a big deal. If I say something that might be perceived as offensive or something, we talk about it right then and we have a conversation, and I learn from it rather than the people that call me up. I remember one time when I was in the news, I did a story. This is years ago. And I said in a story, I said, remember when gay used to be happy and people were happy and gay? Now it's a lifestyle. Well, the lifestyle word did not go over well.
Of course.
And this is back, I mean, this is 20 years ago. So it was all new. And I didn't know that because I even went to one of my friends who's this dear friend of mine who's a lesbian. And I said, this is what I said. What's wrong with that? Because they were calling the station and she's going, Rick, I don't know. It doesn't, I don't get it. So a whole group of folks, the gay community from the University of Oregon contacted me and they said, you know, we want to talk to you about this. And I said, well, I'm not going to just change my language unless I understand it. And so we had a meeting. They explained to me that to them, that's like, sometimes people it's like you're choosing to live because you choose a lifestyle. So you're choosing to be gay, which is not what they are doing. And so I got it. We had a meeting. I understood it. I never used it again. And they walked away, I think, respecting me. And I walked away very much respecting them because we had a conversation. Today, that wouldn't happen. They would just, not those people. I don't mean, I'm not pitching them, but in our current climate, if somebody got that, if I said that language, they would come after me with everything they had to try to destroy you and call you. But it was kind of interesting. And I've also explained to my friends and people on my audience is once they call you every name in the book, you stop caring.
And you lose.
When you realize that you're not anti-gay and you're not a homophobe and you're not a Trumper and you don't hate Biden. I hate what he's doing to our country. I don't hate him. When you realize all that stuff is just bullshit, it just runs off your back and you don't care anymore. Sure. When you see him on the streets and people say things to you nasty, yeah, that hurts. You kind of walk away and go, eh. But in my daily life, I'm not going to stop speaking what I believe to be the truth. And I think that's what everybody has to do. And the truth about this medical thing is it's going to drive doctors out of Oregon. It's going to keep doctors and nurses from coming to Oregon in a state that already desperately needs them because they fired a bunch of them during the pandemic.
Yeah, no, it's
believable.
It's unbelievable. And once, especially nurses, the nurses that refused the jab and left, and then they realized that they could make, $150 an hour travel nursing in certain communities. So they had to work half as much. It's like, okay, so you're in a real crummy place for 6 months and then you're on the beach for the rest of your, year. Right. It's like, and those people are never coming back. Like, no. It doesn't matter how much you pay people now when you've treated them so unbelievably bad and you literally called them. I mean, I had a patient when I was still in Oregon come to me, and she was I don't want to give it away too much, but she worked for a company I used to work for, and my name came up as being a so-and-so in a group of nurses that were involved in, risk mitigation for the company.
Right.
She Googled me and found me and became my patient because she said, if that company hates that guy, he must be doing something right.
Oh, well, Dr. Bratlin, one of our sponsors, the dentist, he came out real fast saying, hey, you don't have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask in, but we obviously can't work on you with a mask. And your civil liberties are super important to us. And he got tons of patients. Because, yeah, he lost a few, but not compared to how many he got, because most people and respect people who stand up for what they believe in. Now, I hesitate on that. I think that's how it used to be. Maybe it's not like that anymore. I didn't experience that in my latter days in Oregon as being much respected because I was speaking my mind and telling people what I thought.
Yeah, I think, but I think what's incredibly marketable is honesty.
Yeah,
and I think people can smell, like, what the internet has done is just opened the world up to just unfettered information, and that has been very powerful in teaching people how they're being lied to. And I think the assumption is now that you are being lied to 100% of the time on the news, and you're going to get right-wing lies and left-wing lies, but you're going to get lies, and you're going to get lied to 100% by advertisers. And now you can't trust the medical profession, any kind of 3-letter agency. They're all liars. So right. Where do people go? They're going to podcasts, right? And it's like, and literally, like, I heard this. I can't remember whose podcast I was listening to, but when you think of the fact, it was Tucker was, I think, talking to Joe Rogan. When you think of the fact that 3.5 to 4-hour interviews were going to become so successful that these guys are making millions of dollars a month doing these podcasts just because people are super hungry for truth. And they don't even care if the information isn't perfectly accurate, because none of it's going to be. They just want to hear people speak their minds.
Well, and see, don't you think they also want that conversation, to hear people? Like, one of the things I really appreciate about Jordan Peterson is he's always asking his guests, okay, now I want to run this by you. This is a thought I have, and I want to see what you think of that. And so he's really using,
Yeah.
which is really what conversation and all this is supposed to be about, is iron, like you said, go back to the beginning where you said iron sharpening iron. So he wants to make sure he's correct, but he knows his biases. And so he's running it by his guests, but we're just doing it publicly. And I think what the news business screwed up on is they told you what to think. They cut it up into little sound bites. They gave you little bits and pieces of, to keep your attention, because it had to be under a minute 30. And we lost the audience. And now what Rogan and Jordan Peterson and, Anthony Huber, all these people are starting to show people is when you have an interesting topic and people conversing about it, and even some disagreement in there. Because I've heard on Peterson's podcast, somebody will go, no, I don't really see it. Well, then how do you see it? And it's almost reteaching us, re-educating us on how to have a basic conversation and not having to worry. Here's the thing about this medical bill too that bugs me is I want my doctor to be free to say, Rick, that's a bad idea.
Yes.
This may hurt your feelings, but you taking, I don't want to say, I don't take TRT, but if you want to go on testosterone replacement therapy, you as a former prostate cancer patient probably shouldn't do that because X, Y, and Z. And then if I'm the offended person, then I can go, he doesn't respect me because I'm a cancer survivor and he's obviously aggressive towards me, so I don't want my doctor to have any filters. I want my doctor to say that medicine is not going to be the best. I wouldn't suggest that for you. This, I would suggest you could try that. But who's going to do that? You're going to have, you know what I mean? I think it's going to limit the kind of medical care that you can get.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it is. The problem with this is most doctors are pretty disengaged with how all this stuff works, and they're going to find out when it actually happens to them. And I mean, like, how on earth are you going to tiptoe around a 350-pound patient and explain to them that they, need to change their lifestyle? You're fat shaming me. You know what, sister? You're so unhealthy. If it takes shame to change you, I am 100% engaged in that. I will do whatever I can to help you. Like, shouldn't that be the case?
Right.
I mean, again, you shouldn't go out purposefully trying to hurt people's feelings. That's not the point. But I mean, I have talked to patients that have been so incredibly diligent in trying to be sensitive about, okay, you need to change your lifestyle. And they're weeping,
right?
Because they feel the shame. I'm not shaming them,
right?
But
you're pointing out facts because you are a doctor and your oath is to save lives. And that's not going to save that person's life. If you just go, oh no, I think, your diet probably is really good. And your cholesterol's through the roof. And I wouldn't, I mean, that's just not, we've created a monster here. It's just unbelievable to me.
Yeah. It's going to be curious to see how this ends, because this is just the kind of thing that,
can people do anything? I mean, what can people like?
Well, I think you have to write the Oregon Board of Medical Examiners, because they're ultimately a branch of the state government, and their entire reason for existence is to protect patients from bad providers. That's their job. They're like the judge, jury, and executioner between the doctor and the patient to make sure that there's some sober judgment so that crazy stuff doesn't happen to patients.
Okay.
So, because you can get your license taken away for lots of stuff that's not illegal, obviously.
Right.
So, and that's how it should be. I don't disagree. So people should be writing in to the Board of Medical Examiners, and it's like, please, no microaggression ethics line in your bylaws. This is completely crazy.
Right.
Be nice, because if you're macro aggressive, it usually doesn't work on people that are, that sensitive. But
the other thing I think I've learned over the years is when you're writing those letters, be brief. Because if you're one of these people that sends an email that's like this long, I don't have time to go through that. And people try telling the whole story. Just go in, say, I don't think this is going to do anything for us in terms of bringing more doctors to the area, bringing more nurses in, making healthcare more affordable. We keep hearing that thing. How's this going to help? And make your point. And like Tim says, be gracious, be kind, be firm, and be short, be brief, because these are busy people and they're not going to read through your 3-page indoctrination term. Because I get some emails that it's like you're going, okay, I realize you were born out of a womb and your father and mother, I don't need all this information. So, Tim, would you do me a big favor and tell May hi?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for spending 40 minutes with me. And yeah.
Anytime.
No, and this is fun. I knew when you said that to me, I thought, God, Tim would be perfect because you aren't here, so you can say what you want.
Exactly.
And not suffer any consequences for that. But also, I think there's a lot of doctors in the state who are going to appreciate the fact that you can speak out for them where they can't right now. But they better start speaking out, or it's going to be you're going to be in trouble.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. So, Tim, when can people catch your show? How do they find BS Free MD?
Okay, so we have 2 shows a week. We have our interview show that drops every Thursday. Some pretty interesting. The last several have been really crazy. The one from last Thursday was a pastor who has interviewed 1,500 people with near-death experiences, and that one is a complete mind blower. The week before that was Keith Abloh, Hunter Biden's psychiatrist. That's an interesting one. And then we have a show that drops every Monday that we have been recording live on Wednesday nights called Doc Tales with Cocktails, where we tell funny stories, have a couple drinks, look at kind of the lighter side of what happens in medicine and the news. That show, I think, is going to start to be very shortly. We're going to pre-record that so we can up the production value for people. So,
okay. All right. We'll be looking for you. Thanks, Tim.
Appreciate it.
See you later. So again, you guys get involved. This is not a time to be quiet. Even if you don't feel like that's something that relates to you, it's going to relate to you. Just let this board know that this is a crazy idea, and Oregon needs to keep its good doctors and nurses and not make it more difficult for them to practice medicine over someone else's idea of a microaggression. Go look up microaggression and tell me how that you've never done it. It's crazy stuff. Okay, share this on your page too, you guys, because Facebook just loves to throttle us back. They don't like you knowing this stuff. They say now, oh, everything's better, but censorship is alive and well on social media. All right, we'll see you next time.